Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. Following Russia's withdrawal from the Black Sea Agreement, United Nations representatives called on the Russian government to allow export of Ukraine's grain. The deal expired on Monday after Russia quit and warned it could not guarantee the safety of ships, in a move that the United Nations said would strike a blow to people in need everywhere. Foreign ministers from Poland, Germany and Ukraine were among those gathered in the Security Council, urging the continuation of the deal.
Russia's unilateral withdrawal from the deal generally means one thing. Russia decided to fan the flames of its imperial war against Ukraine with rekindled economic aggression against the most needy and vulnerable states and societies of the Global South. We call on the parties remaining in the initiative to hold to their commitments so essential to the global food market.
Rao called on the remaining parties to the Black Sea Grain Initiative, the formal name for the 2022 deal, to stand by their commitments and continue exporting Ukrainian grain. He went on to say that Russia's actions, such as the suspension of the grain deal and the constant undermining of the security of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and the recent destruction of the Novokakhovka dam, showed that the consequences of this war far transcend the Ukrainian and Russian borders. The Polish minister also appealed for any peace initiatives to be based on fair conditions and fundamental principles of international law.
Russia is blackmailing the world. This blackmail affects the lives of millions of Ukrainians and tens of millions more around the world, primarily in Africa and Asia, who face the threat of rising food prices and hunger. Ukraine makes no demands in relation to the deal. We simply wanted to continue operating and expand its capacity. We want our grain to be freely exported and reach foreign customers all around the globe. Whatever Russia is saying to excuse its behavior, please note that while blocking our ports, Moscow is increasing exports of its own grain, including the ones stolen from temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. I call on all UN member states to firmly demand that Russia resume its participation in the deal in good faith and stop its hunger games. Russia must keep politics out of global food security.
Russia has been adding fuel to the fire of a global food crisis. As a result, families on every continent struggle to make ends meet, and children go to bed hungry every night. And now, with announcement that it will withdraw from the Black Sea Grain Initiative, Moscow is threatening even more people, more children, with starvation. I therefore call, like others, on Russia to stop using hunger as a weapon, stop abducting children, stop your illegal war on Ukraine in the name of humanity.
Moscow suggested that if demands to improve exports of its own grain and fertilizer were met, it would consider resurrecting the Black Sea Agreement. However, United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres said that a UN pact that aimed to help facilitate Russia's shipments over the past year was also terminated. The Black Sea deal was brokered by the United Nations and Turkey in July last year to combat a global food crisis, worsened by Russia's February 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Ukraine and Russia are among the world's top grain exporters. Russia is using grain as ammunition, Polish Agriculture Minister Robert Telus said after the collapse of a UN-brokered deal that allowed Ukraine to export grain through the Black Sea. Telus urged the European Union to help improve grain logistics, as more Ukrainian shipments will start flowing through its borders after the harvest. Farmers in Poland and other nations bordering Ukraine came under pressure from Ukrainian grain this year, pushing Warsaw to close its border for imports. As a result, Brussels agreed to halt imports of Ukrainian grain through the borders of Ukraine's neighbours, allowing only shipments in transit elsewhere. When it comes to transport of grain, transit through Poland and other border countries, maybe it will be more intense. We're also willing to improve it to make it even better. Telus said Warsaw was ready to improve improve the transit of grain through its border, but said the flow will not increase immediately. At the moment, the harvest is starting. When it starts in Ukraine, in Poland, it is obvious that the flow will be even greater. We have to force the European Union to improve the infrastructure. This is another thing that I am constantly appealing for in the EU, that at the moment we need to invest in infrastructure that will help transport grain from Ukraine. For example, today in Poland, raspberries and other soft fruits are a problem. In other countries, this is not a problem. Flexibility is needed here. If we had a problem, let these raspberries and fruit go where they are needed, and other products too. Because, for example, we need sunflower and sunflower oil in Poland because we don't have it, and Bulgaria doesn't need it because Bulgaria already has it. What is needed here is flexibility and normal cooperation with the European Union, which I regret, but so far there is none. Telus, who will meet his counterparts from Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary, Slovakia and Moldova on Wednesday, said Warsaw would push for an extension of the embargo on Ukrainian grain imports beyond the 15th of September. Poland has allocated over €3.4 billion for aid to farmers who have been threatened by a lack of financial liquidity because of Russia's aggression against Ukraine, the agriculture minister has said. Poland's farmers have been suffering falling sales after vast quantities of cheap Ukrainian grain found their way onto the Polish market, bringing prices down and cutting domestic growers off from their regular sales markets. Ukrainian grain, originally designated for transport through Poland on its way to Africa and Asia, was allowed into Poland as a gesture of support to Ukraine, a major global grain producer, whose export capacities have been severely diminished in the wake of the continuing defensive war against Russia. Yielding to pressure from farmers, Poland introduced a temporary ban on Ukrainian food products in April, a move which was contested by the European Union as unilateral. But arguments from EU member states bordering Ukraine persuaded the European Commission to introduce an EU ban on Ukrainian grains in countries neighbouring Ukraine. The Supreme Administrative Court overturned the decision of the Warsaw Regional Administrative Court of the 31st of May to suspend the implementation of the environmental decision on Turów. The appeals of the General Directorate for Environmental Protection, the mine owner and the National Prosecutor's Office were upheld. This means that the mine and power plant will be allowed to operate after 2026. The plant currently supplies around 7% of Poland's electricity. The appeals were lodged against the decisions of the Voivode Administrative Court in Warsaw on the 31st of May this year. At that time, the court suspended the implementation of the environmental decision on the concession for coal mining at the Turów mine after 2026, pending consideration of the appeal. The court failed to take public interest into account. What happened a month ago in the Provincial Administrative Court was a disturbing precedent where a judge decided to destroy Poland's energy security. No judge has the constitutional authority to rule on such a fundamental issue. Let me point out that the applications have been submitted by foundations linked to Germany, which do much to destroy the Polish energy sector and make Poland dependent upon them. Today's decision, which allows the mine to operate in peace, is a relief. According to the NSA, the Court of First Instance should consider the consequences of the implementation of the decision, not only in the context of the situation of the complainant, but also in the broader public interest and the interests of other parties to the proceedings. In this case, the Provincial Court did not make such an assessment of the applicant's motions and the arguments of the investor and the authority. The court stressed that there is no doubt that energy security is a constitutional value, as it is one of the guarantees of the independence of the state and the security of citizens, said the NSA spokesman. That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.